Hello, bonjour. Welcome to Pardon Our French with Quincy and Justine.
It is almost Halloween, so this week we're going to go over some spooky stories.
Yes,
about
some
Paris
that Quincy
and
is
France.
is very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But spooky season is, you know, we have a lot of fans who are fans of the spooky things, and so why not tell you guys about two spooky things in France in general?
Notably, the guillotine.
Oh yeah,
And the catacombs.
yes. So we're going to go over just some fun facts about them, what we know about them, what we've visited or not visited. In reading these things, we were quite surprised by some of the facts that we read.
Yes.
We're going to start with the guillotine.
Okay.
There are two posts, and at the top of the post, it is a weighted blade
Yeah.
that you basically pull a rope and it falls and decapitates someone.
So it became sort of famous during the French Revolution, notably during the Reign of Terror, which were about 9 months between 1793 and 4, I believe. It's kind of hard to say numbers-wise, but between around 20,000 and 40,000 people were executed
By
guillotine during the French Revolution.
And it was the guillotine was used during the French Revolution as a more humane way of execution.
Yeah, they say that, but then I remember this from French history class in 11th grade, is that they saved, like, obviously each time you decapitate someone, the blade gets more and more dull. And so they would actually save the dullest blade for when they were executing people that they really hated. Like Marie Antoinette.
Oh, yeah. That lady had it rough.
Yeah. And Louis XVI.
In the end. Because the majority of her life probably wasn't very...
It's probably very nice.
Yeah.
But then she started hoarding the bread and everyone hated her. So that is what started the French Revolution, by the way. And yeah, so they basically, it started as something that was used to kill members of the nobility. And then they just decided it could be used for everyone.
Yeah.
And the last guillotining in France was, hold on, pause for dramatic effect, 1977.
Yeah.
And the last one that was done in public was in 1939. So that's kind of insane. And actually...
It's very insane.
Super insane.
Our grandparents were alive.
Yeah. They were still guillotining people in 1977. And that was actually the last execution of any kind in Europe ever.
Yeah.
Because capital punishment was banned quite soon after. So, fun fact.
Other fun facts. The guillotine was actually a major spectator event. So much so that, like, people would go every single day and attend these executions. And most famously, a group called the Tricoteuses, which means the knitting woman, basically. Yeah. Pretty self-explanatory. A group of very morbid women who would sit beside all of the executions by guillotine and basically laugh and knit between
and
the
watch
beheadings.
Them.
Yeah. Yeah. So
oh my God. That's insane.
It's
just like
wild.
As their like entertainment.
Just knitting.
Oh my gosh.
Could you just imagine just like blood splatter on their knitting?
It was actually briefly banned from 1906 to 1909. And then they clearly decided that it was fine after that again.
Yeah, they're like, oh, okay, 3 years, we're good.
Yeah.
Let's reintroduce.
There was a newspaper, or there still is, Le Petit Parisien, which was pro-capital punishment, I guess. They polled their readers about the death penalty, and the results indicated that 74% of the readers were pro-guillotine.
Yes.
So
guillotine operators were also national celebrities.
That's crazy.
Fun.
Oh my God.
And so, like, as the fame of the guillotine grew, like, so did the reputation of the operators, and they won a great deal of like prizes and just admiration from the public.
That's so weird.
It's so
This is the
crazy.
one. This is the fact I wasn't going to tell you.
Okay.
It's says perhaps the guillotine was a little too good at its job. The head of the victim would fall into a basket at the foot of the device, whereupon the executioner would hold up the head of the victim for the crowd. And there were numerous reports of facial twitches, eye and lip movements on the severed heads.
That's awful.
Yikes.
And just, can you imagine, like, people are watching these public deaths and, like, cheering.
Yeah. And I guess the conclusion is that this was the fastest way to kill someone, but it was still 7 seconds before the brain would stop functioning due to the blood and sort of, like, oxygen deprivation.
And, well,
spooky.
The reason that it became, like, the most humane way is because executions before then were done with, you know, an executioner with a sword or an axe or whatever weapon of choice.
Yeah.
And you would, the victim, or not victim, but whatever, I don't know, who knows if they were innocent or not, but whoever they're killing were facing the public and the executioner was behind them and they would swing. And a lot of the times, humans aren't perfect and they would miss, and it would be a very, very painful execution.
You can actually go see the last guillotine blade in Paris.
That's really cool.
At the Musée de la Préfecture de Police. So, the last guillotine.
Which was in 1977.
1977. That's so insane.
Wow. Speaking of when the heads would roll into the baskets, lots of scientists would actually conduct crazy studies on the heads that
after the fact
were basically beheaded. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I remember when I was in high school living in Rennes, we had a history class that was basically just about the French Revolution because it was that big of a deal. And we all had to do a presentation on a different person. And, you know, each person had the PowerPoint, and I forgot to put the last slide of the PowerPoint of, like, how they died.
Oh.
And because everyone was executed by guillotine during the French Revolution, I was just like, guillotine. And he was like, very well done.
To the point, all that was needed.
Guillotine. What? So that is the guillotine.
Yeah. Next, for catacombs. I've actually visited.
I have not.
Will you ever, you think?
No.
Okay.
You can spoil it for me.
Perfect. Honestly, I knew most of these things before going down.
Yeah.
But there were a few things that I didn't know, and I found out when I was down there.
When you went down. That sounds so eerie.
Well,
spooky.
Yeah, it is so spooky. First of all, you cannot be claustrophobic when you go down. And I am kind of claustrophobic, but nobody told me, like, to what point it would feel so small and just, like, you can't escape, pretty much.
Yeah.
When you go down, you're going down these spiral staircases. And mind you, the depth is the height of a 5-story building, but underground.
No way.
So you're going downstairs.
I did not realize they were that deep.
They're so deep. Like, they ranged, I think the deepest is that. There are some that are less deep. And what you can actually visit in Paris is, like, not even like an eighth or a tenth of what there is under the city. So when you're going down, you get dizzy, and, like, I felt like I needed breaks or I was going to throw up.
And then you're surrounded by bones.
And you're surrounded by bones. You're surrounded by people who are behind you, in front of you. Like, you have really no place to escape.
Yeah, you will never catch me down.
Yeah, it's really scary. And then you get down there, and the ceilings are so low that, like, some people have to, like, crouch down because it's, like, too low for them.
That's a no for me.
So, yeah, they're huge. So, yeah, as I said, they're, like, an eighth or a tenth of what is there is what you see.
Wow.
Some people say that they're 185 miles long or 300 kilometers. Some say that it's even more. It's 310 miles. So, yeah, it's a lot. What you see is the very polished version, if you will, where the bones are actually, like, set up and organized in, like, an artistic way.
Then all the rest of it, they're just stuck down there.
Yeah, they're just stuck down there.
Oh my God.
The catacombs are... So this happened because, like, why are there catacombs?
Yeah. Why are there dead bones beneath our feet?
Basically, there was a public health hazard with the cemeteries in Paris. And they decided to basically remove the components or all of the dead bodies and take them to a abandoned quarry, a limestone quarry, which was like a maze under the city. And they just stuffed some bones down there.
Okay, so I've studied, when I was taking an art history class, I learned a lot about, like, the Lutetian limestone, which is comes from the quarries, probably these same ones. underneath Paris and sort of like outside of Paris. So before Paris was called Paris, it was called Lutetia, and that was a name given to them during like the Roman Empire, basically. That type of limestone is what you'll find in most of the buildings in Paris. And obviously now Paris is named Paris, but there's actually a great hotel in the 6th called the Lutetia. Fun fact.
Keeping to its roots.
Yeah, obviously kind of like a little callback. But that's interesting to know that now that's what is in these carved out. Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So...
Sorry.
That was Quincy's reaction to reading the fact that there are more people buried in the catacombs than there are people alive in Paris.
What?
And you know what actually really disturbed me when I went down there is that when they are so organized, you see all these skulls and you just think like that was a human life.
Yeah.
And now they're like taken apart.
Like, in my opinion, like, isn't that kind of like disrespectful to the dead?
Well, I thought it was because
it's like not a spectacle to see.
Their heads are now put in like this artistic formation. It's like, oh, I found a skull. Let me just like stick it in this art piece. Like, what? Yeah. And then all of their other body bones are like
body bones.
They're like scattered around. Like, who knows whose forearm or whatever.
Your hip could be in the other room and your head is on another floor.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And it's just wild to me. Like, that made me really uncomfortable.
Yet, there's so many people who visit it. When I used to live in the 14th, which is where they're located, I used to see people every single day line down the block to get into the catacombs.
It's one of the most visited things in Paris.
I just don't get it. I will never do it.
Yeah, I did it out of curiosity. I also watched like all of those horror movies like As Above, So Below.
Yeah.
Which also is so scary because when you're down there, you're like, this is already huge. And like to know that this is like nothing compared to everything else and that people go and like illegally sneak in to have raves down in the catacombs where they have to like swim through like this water that overflows from like the sewage system. And they're like crawling through rubble and just like bones. Like, no thanks, no thanks. I'm good. Like,
this sounds like an actual horror movie.
I'm fine.
Didn't know how spooky we'd be getting. God.
If you do want to visit them, do skip the line pass because there are big lines.
I feel like we're de-influencing people from going to visit the catacombs.
It's fascinating. It is fascinating, but you are very close to like these bones that are real, like people's bones.
Yeah.
Like,
I guess if that stuff doesn't bother you, if you're like,
it bothers me, but I'm also so curious that like I need to go see for myself.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so that's a little bit of the catacombs and the guillotine. And I'm now going to go look at the last guillotine blade because I think that's wild.
I would, but I've been too burned by the Préfecture de Police that I'm not going to their museum. Like, straight up.
Fair.
I refuse to give them any more money. I've paid my dues to society.
You have. I think you have. Lucky for me, I have not had to go there yet. So... I'm gonna go check that out. I'll send pics.
Please don't. Please don't.
So yeah, it is crazy. When you go down the catacombs, they do have like little Latin written in the stone, and there's one in particular that says like "Welcome to the gates of hell," and it's actually crazy.
Oh my God.
And I think the reason they organized the bones that way is because people wanted to start visiting them after they're like, oh, well, we have all these bones underground. Like, might as well make it
That's
like,
nuts.
let's go see. And
but apparently, like, it's not. So the only time I've seen any of it in pictures or anything, except for we're staring at it right now. But they did that chase scene in Lupin in the catacombs.
Yeah.
So they must not be like that fragile if they're doing a chase scene.
I mean, now they have like when you go down there, like for instance, like this kind of thing where you have. I'll post pictures of when I went down there so you guys can kind of see what it looks like.
Yeah, at the near the end of the post in the reference photos, so that you don't get a jump scare.
They have like chicken wire over them so that they're so people can't steal them.
Okay,
people would steal bones. That's another thing.
Oh.
People would steal bones. Like, why? Why? That's some Jeffrey Dahmer shit. Okay? We don't need other people's bones in our homes. Thank you.
Oh my God.
So yeah, they're arranged as an artwork. People used to take bones as souvenirs.
Holy
so now
Mother
a lot
of
of them are covered
Christ.
in chicken wire, which I think why they do chase scenes and stuff. They're probably very careful.
Yeah.
And if they're doing
It was a
anything-
really cool scene, I have to say.
I don't think I've seen it. I don't think I've
You
seen
should.
it. Yeah, I really need to catch up on Lupin.
There's a new season out too, so
Oh,
great show, by the way, for anyone who wants to see really pretty cityscapes of Paris
Yeah,
with the side of thrill action.
Yeah, no, it's really good. I just haven't taken the time to fully invest myself. But yeah, that's another thing that was crazy. Tall buildings can't be constructed on top of the catacombs at the risk of it, not being strong enough to...
Then how the hell did they get the Tour de Montparnasse?
Because...
Which is just an eyesore for the entire friggin'
it's
city.
so freaking ugly. But yeah, I guess before this rule was put in place...
And for people who don't know what the Tour de Montparnasse is, it's basically the only
ugliest tower you see in
horrible skyscraper. They literally put the rest of the skyscrapers like much in this one area at La Défense, but this, to kind of preserve the beautiful landscape of Paris. And somehow this one in the 14th got let through and was constructed, but apparently has very pretty views.
Yeah, I know. They put it in place later on because they realized that because the catacomb is such a mystery and there are still tunnels that are not mapped out, like they don't even know to what extent it goes to.
That's why they said you can't.
Yeah, they've now put that in place.
Yeesh.
Could you imagine just the tower crumbling down one day because the weight? It would have already done that.
Honestly,
by now,
as long as it gets the tower down, I don't care how it happens.
She doesn't mean that.
Oh my God.
So anyhow, I hope that gave you kind of a spooky lore for Halloween.
Thrill for Halloween, yeah.
We're going to go celebrate on our paniche as per usual.
We are so excited.
Haven't decided quite what we're going to wear yet, but we're thinking Mean Girls.
Yeah. It's kind of a low effort year.
Yeah, we usually put a ton of effort in, and this year we didn't plan
Yeah.
any kind of like Halloween party. So
Well, it's also, it falls in the middle of the week, and so like the boat we're doing is on the Saturday night prior.
yeah.
And then for the actual night, I'm having a slumber party at mine.
Yeah, I'm so sad I'm missing that, but I'll be in London.
In London town.
London town.
Indeed.
So yes, have a happy Halloween, and we'll see you the day after.
Yeah, I guess.
À bientôt.
Au revoir.
Happy Halloween. Do try not to die.